What's happening, everybody? This is Dynamic Talking Points. My name is Leroy Harris. Most of the men know me by Luke Mon the Wise Man. The Dynamic Talking Points. One of our first people we got here is a brother named Isaiah. I call him Zeke. He's my man. Been knowing him for a long time. He kind of mentored me on the inside, and we here. I would like for him to introduce himself because can't nobody introduce the God like the God can introduce himself. So would you please introduce yourself to the people?
Indeed. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a real honor and a pleasure. I go by Isaiah Bunkley, CEO, founder of Apex Goes to Freedom, father, husband, independent entrepreneur, student. I attend Wayne State, by way of Mike Ilitch School of Business. I'm, pursuing my bachelor's in TISM or Business Administration. I'm, just blessed to be here, man, as a community activist, as a, dynamic leader, and, one of the family, man.
So you a boss now, huh?
Hey, man. I like the term leader. You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
Forerunner, man. But hey, it all fit.
Well, look, Black man, I'm glad to have you here, man. I want to ask you a few questions, man.
Go.
So you did 12 years in prison, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about that experience, man.
Oh man, with the actual process of going in.
Yeah, no, not yet. I want to talk about that later. But your experience in prison itself, like.
Oh man.
What are some of the things you went through when you was in prison, like some of the experiences?
Yes, sir. First of all, it was a journey. It was definitely a journey of growth, of understanding, education, in all different forms, and self-discovery, evolution, all the good, little catchwords. But for me personally, it was about maturity. I experienced, some setbacks. I experienced some wins. I experienced, some grief. I became acquainted. I was forced to become acquainted with the real me. When support was low, when communication was low, I had to fight with myself in there. I had to pay attention to who was around me, what I could learn.
Why was that important? To pay attention to who was around you.
Man, we was in an environment where, you come across all type of people from walks of life, different beliefs, different type of cases. And so you really had to learn how to discern, to grow discernment, man, with, who I was or who I thought I was as a man at that time. Because you can pick up the wrong ideas of what you believe a man is, what you believe a man is supposed to grow into be, how a man is supposed to carry himself, and then being in that environment where it's focused primarily just on adrenaline and testosterone, and it's a type of school, man. So you can lose focus or you can gain a focus.
I want to ask you a question. It may be a hard question to answer. Did the 12 years you did in prison, did that help you or harm you as an individual, man?
Personally, it helped me.
Explain that.
In the conventional sense, they call it, a reform or a correctional facility. Now, whether that does the job it's intended to do, each individual is tasked with, are they going to grow maturity-wise despite the resources that's available in there? So even though it's called a correctional facility, the way they go about it, a lot of the resources that the resources and things that they have don't necessarily bring about their result. And so you have to really take it upon yourself as an individual and find the resources. And for me, my escape was reading and finding like-minded individuals who was focused on business and, setting a path for, ourselves after we got out. And that really changed the focus and kind of forced them into a maturity to happen. And that was despite, the correctional facility, but also one thing it definitely did was gave me time to reflect. So that might have been a benefit of the facility.
So you saying you took advantage of your time while you was in prison?
Took advantage of the time. That was a long way of saying
Indeed,
I took advantage of the time.
People need to hear.
Yes, sir.
People need to hear that.
Yes,
You know
sir.
what I mean? Because
Yes,
a lot
sir.
of people don't understand that when some of us do go to prison, some of us take advantage of the time, and some of us don't take advantage of the time. To some of us, the time do us instead of we doing the time.
Indeed.
You was just one of those individuals that was able to make sure that you did the time and you took advantage of what was going on around.
I couldn't do it without, being around like-minded individuals.
That's
Like
it.
a person can go in there, mentally strong, and if that works for you, that works for you. But you are going to be affected by environment and what you see around you. And I find that regardless of the time that you have to do, your focus and those around you who helping you maintain that focus or distract you from that focus is going to play a big part into how you actually develop.
Oh, that's it. I got a question for you. You did 12 years, right? Okay. What was your life like before incarceration, man?
So just a little bit of background about me, man. I come from Detroit.
East side, west side?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I had family on the east. I stayed on the east. I stayed on the west at various times. So I don't like to place myself on the east or west. Like I'm a product of Detroit, period, because I didn't experience it both sides. I done lived on 12th. I done lived on Puritan. I done lived on East 6 Mile. I done lived on East 7 Mile, and that's where I really grew up at and so-called jumped off the porch.
Indeed, I get it.
And so, I didn't been exposed to like why people really, put the onus on where they from. But I'm a product of the D, man. I've been exposed to all the different hoods and all the different high schools from east to west. But if you want to say where I'm from, you know what I'm saying, I'm from East 7 Mile.
Okay. So what was your life like though before incarceration? Like, how did you grow up?
So my childhood, I have two younger siblings and two older siblings. So I came smack dab in the middle. And by the age of, I would say 3 or 4, my parents, they was, products of the neighborhood as well. And they were involved in, whether it was selling dope or doing dope. And by consequence of that, me and my siblings, my younger siblings, end up becoming wards of the state. So we was taken very early in our childhood into foster care. And I did probably about 7-8 years inside that system. Along with my younger sister and my younger brother. And that was a whole experience right there, because while we grew up in there, we were still attached. We do visits and weekly visits, or it had to increase into that. But through that, and then minimal contact with my other siblings and stuff, it was an isolating thing. And so, just growing up under those circumstances for several years, personally, I had to go from multiple houses. So I went from house to house, like it seemed like every year. So I, lived with a lot of different families, and so that stability and that parental structure, it really wasn't there, man, because I was a stranger having to move on to the next situation, so consistently. And so it was hard really finding my personality, growing into myself.
Do you think that experience from foster home to foster home actually affected the way that you responded to the streets or your mentality dealing with the streets, anything like that? Was there a connection there?
Definitely so. I would say initially, I was a withdrawn person, even though my natural personality was to be, happy and, kind of outgoing and stuff like that. Because of the type of isolation and the type of things I went through in foster care, I developed a sort of, because I wouldn't call myself an introvert, but I developed kind of a reserved type of outlook on life. I was hesitant about the way I held conversations, the way I interacted with everybody else. I had to always mentally think, like, is I'm doing something right? Is I'm responding the right way? Am I weird for thinking the way I'm thinking? Do I fit into a crowd? And I wouldn't say it's too much different from the way a kid naturally has to grow up and interact and socialize anyway. But I think it was compounded by the way that I had no direction for real, because my circumstances always changing, so I never had a consistent amount of time to ingratiate myself with a family or ingratiate myself with siblings and really learn from being around them. It was like I say, it was a really debilitating, high stressful type of time. So when I, was introduced to the streets, I would say when I met with my crowd, when I started doing certain things, it kind of replaced that isolating feeling, and now I belong to, a group of outcasts. I belong to a group of people who all you had to do was commit an action and you could be a part of us. You know what I mean? So whether it was getting involved in selling drugs or as far as my crime, you know what I'm saying, I was arrested for robbery and stuff like that, but it kind of made it a sense of normality, because if I'm doing this, as long as I'm doing it with somebody and we all speaking the same language, it's a bond there.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? So it was an adrenaline rush. It was what pulled me. It was what motivated me to do certain things, and that was.
I'm pretty sure that when you were incarcerated, you learned a few skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what type of skills did you learn on the inside that would have helped you or helped yourself back then not be involved in the streets, in the crime, and in the robberies? Like, explain to us what skills that you know now. Had you known them then, you wouldn't have ever been to prison.
So I would say the ability to, first of all, say no.
Indeed.
To, be able to go within yourself and figure out what it is that you like doing, what it is you don't like doing. Being able to, be comfortable with, figuring out your own little lane and pursuing that. The reason I say that is because one thing I was known for, even in prison, was reading. Every time somebody came and seen me, they seen I had a book. But that was a skill and something that I loved doing even before I went to prison. In school, I used to get all type of rewards for eager reader and, comprehension, and like anytime we had to read in class, people would automatically look at me and ask me to read.
So hold on. Mm-hmm. You saying that you was a nerd, man.
Yeah,
You was a nerd.
I loved it.
Man, you being a nerd, how did you get involved in crime though? Like, I want to know, like, what was a turning point in your life back then that made you even justify saying, I want to go rob somebody, or I want to do this, or I want to sell drugs? Like, I'm trying to understand, like, what was the turning point in that? Because you always been a smart dude. You always been a smart dude, even then.
And I would say a lot of what goes on today kind of feeds that same beast, but want to fit in, want to belong to a crowd, wanting to receive, a type of admiration and things of that nature, and be looked at and acknowledged for what you do or what you don't do. And so, even though I used to read, used to go to the library, I used to play chess. I was on a chess team, swim team, basketball team, all type of stuff. It was a type of isolating feeling because the people who grew up in school and this was the things they loved to do, you had to be one of them.
Indeed. And
I could fit in into that crowd. And then after school, when I go to the block, I can relate to the guys that's around me. So now we running together. We going to play basketball. We going to get into fights with guys with other neighborhoods. This in my world, this is normal stuff. You know what I mean? You got to know how to carry yourself. You got to know how to defend yourself. You got to know how to defend those around you. And as I started to separate myself from guys that either knew how to fight or didn't know how to fight, guys that knew how to carry themselves versus guys that didn't know how to carry themselves, it was an admiration that came from it, because now it's like, oh, Isaiah, he know how to scrap. Oh, Isaiah, he ain't scared of this and that, and you get kind of an admiration and a following and a push behind it. It's like, man, what we doing? And somebody got to figure out what we doing.
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, let's go do this. And if we interact with somebody else who on that type of time, another group of guys from another, what we gonna do? What we gonna be known as? I got some homies that ran. You know what I'm saying? I was one of the ones that stayed. Whether we won or lost, got beat up, or we whooped somebody down. You know what I'm saying? The fact that I got heart, my man's got heart, my little brother got heart, it's a push now. It's interaction. It's like, all right, what's next? It's evolution, because now you separate yourself from the weak or the, those that need to be defended. Now you get into another game. Now you in the game with a lot of people who can do that. So now it's like, what's the next thing to separate yourself?
So what has changed?
I guess the maturity behind it and the realization of what's going on. Like, being a destructive individual, it led to a particular direction. And that direction only leads a few different places. One of the places I end up was prison. I'm sitting on a visit. My mother comes see me, my little sisters come see me, my father come see me. But one of the most impactful things was my little brother. He looked up to me, and so he was following in my footsteps. So like I say, whether we on the block, we scrapping with guys, or we pulling pistols and we, doing certain things in the neighborhood, my little brother, he following right behind me. Oh, your little brother got heart. Oh, your little brother can squabble. Oh, your little brother, he's smart and all this stuff. He the top in his class, but your little brother on this type of time now. And so when he come in to visit me, he growing up now, and I'm in prison, and he don't got me. And so he figuring it out, but he also like, man, I learned from you. And so when I get in this situation, that situation, this is what I'm doing. And, you know what I'm saying? I know how to hold my own. And I'm seeing this, and I'm sitting here in prison, And I'm like, he headed the same direction I had. You know what I'm saying?
It's cycle continuing.
Now I'm learning how to read again, and I'm getting back into some of the things I love to do that kind of like, when I'm on my personal type of time that edify me, then it's like I'm exposing myself to something different, because now I got the time to expose myself to the things I used to enjoy, whether it's chess or reading, and I'm picking up a different type of focus. And I know when you out there and you in it, you can't necessarily see that type of focus because you in it. My little brother, he loved to hoop. He was on a particular trajectory. He basketball teams, AAU, he can, you know. But as he got older, and then we had to kind of fend for ourselves, fend for our family. Now you're forced to, you know, be exposed to certain things about the hood and support certain things that you had to do to support yourself, or we felt like we had to do. And, you know, I ain't want that for little bro.
That's right. And I see that you changed a lot of the way you thought when you was in prison, man. I want to ask this question. Is what were some of the greatest influences that you had in prison that actually helped you become a better person?
Man, I would say the people I've met in there. You say we known each other for the longest time.
Indeed.
So before I get into that, I want to begin with saying, you know, I was always a thinking person. I was always a person who loved read. And so if somebody gave me a book, especially if you give me a book, 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, I'm gonna definitely read it. Because I loved all different genres, all different subject matters. But a guy gave me a book called, and it was actually one of the guys I met in there, and he, to this day, he my brother and one of my best friends, by the name of Ching. He gave me Black Economics by Dr. Johnson Kunjufu, and it started to change my way of thinking when it came to finance and financial literacy and stuff like that. So that sparked us really pursuing knowledge and like being business owners and credit and all this stuff like that. So that sparked that. But I'm still on the type of time where I'm getting into shit, trying to prove myself, cut my teeth.
No doubt.
And I just remember one day I'm trying to get at a guy, and he going to Islamic service. I heard he was going to service, and so I signed up for service.
Oh no, you signed up to service to go get at a guy,
man. Because this is the way you had this stuff, man. You had to sign up for everything.
You got hurt. Let me hear this one. Come on, let me hear this.
And I heard he was going over there, so I'm over there. I'm prepared.
Yeah. And
I actually signed up for the wrong service. They put me in Al-Islam, which is Orthodox Islam. So I'm going over there like, man, and come to find out I'm in the wrong service.
Yeah.
But it sparked something because I'm so used to going to, you know, the traditional church and, you know, place of worship. And so I had to sign up again. So I ended up going to nation service. And even as soon as I entered, it was the whole way they doing things. They secured and, you know, very structured and organized in the way they doing things. And so the guy who I actually came over there for, he wasn't even over there. So, you know, I end up staying and I'm listening to the guy on the podium speak. And that guy on the podium that was speaking at the time was you. So, I ain't never heard this version of science before, but it was influential because it just resonated with me, because I always had questions, especially about faith, especially about, you know, how the structures of the universes and science just fit into, you know, what I feel in my heart to be natural and, you know, have a rhythm to it. And you was up there and you was kind of breaking it down, man. You was actually, it was like a scientist, man. It was something I ain't never heard before. You was breaking down the atom. And it resonated with me so much because in your lecture, I was envisioning myself and I was picturing myself, and I was like, damn, you know, that's powerful, man. You know, you was relating it to, you know, whether it was the makeup of our skin, to the makeup of our thinking, to history, and we was pulling out books, and it was breaking it all down, man. So, and the one thing about it was self-development. It was, you know, the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of discipline and accepting that discipline, and that just changed. That just it sparked something in me, man. I was forced to hold myself accountable. So faith, spirituality, being okay with, you know, loving knowledge and accepting, you know, instruction. It played a big role into it, man, because I always wanted to be out front, be the leader, but I had to learn how to follow in order to lead properly.
That's it. Hey, you wild, man. I never thought you came to service chasing somebody.
Man, what? It was tragic.
Hey, God, that is out of control, bro. I never thought that, man. I wonder if any other guys knew that.
Man.
You was over there trying to chase somebody.
Man.
You know, we'd have tore your butt up.
I didn't know then. I was not to be defeated.
Hey, man.
It was reckless, man. I'm on tip. I didn't even know, man. There's a whole structure in place already that's preparing for somebody that crazy.
Ain't no doubt. So you end up joining?
End up joining, man. It took me a minute because at the time I had braids, you know what I'm saying? I had a beard, all out in the wilderness, man, you know. I'm back to having a beard and stuff, but you know, at the time, I was all out in the wilderness, man. So I had an image to uphold, regardless if it was for other people, it was an image within myself. It was a certain way I looked at myself, and I just kept coming, because coming over there fed me. It fed me. I was looking for that intellect. I had an intellectual hunger that just couldn't be satisfied. I had finally found a challenge, and I had the time to really indulge with it. And so, everywhere I looked, read this. This is a book. And then let's build. And now it's guys that want to build on the same type of time I'm on. So now I ain't have as much time to walk the yard and get into some bullshit. I had exercises to get to. I had training. You know what I'm saying? I had study groups and circles to get to. You know what I'm saying? I had a way to move that guys used to look at me like, bro, what you doing? Like, you know, so it was humbling, man, and it was edifying, you know. So I ended up joining, man, and it really set the tone for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? The rest of my tenure in prison, and then you know, kind of sustained.
Give me one thing that you learned from the teachings that you actually use today to help you in your life today.
You are a master of your circumstance and your outcome.
Okay.
Nation taught me, or the teachings taught me, that, you know, you have control over your situation. You have control over your thinking.
Let them know what teachings you talking about, though, so that won't get it mixed up.
Man, teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad.
As taught by
him, as taught by the minister Louis Farrakhan.
Okay, man.
God on the scene today, my leader, teacher, and guide, man, the rocket reminder. It was these teachings that kind of, you know, gave me life again. You know, because I was headed in a certain path, and it cleaned me up. You know, cleaned my thinking up. Not saying that I wouldn't face, you know, some challenges. Not saying I wouldn't backslide or none of that. But it always gave me a goal, a person to aspire to be, a structure to always follow. Anytime I lost course or lost direction, it gave me a community that's gonna help push me and build me and then understand. And I felt like it also gave me a talking point and a base set of knowledge to always pull from.
That's right.
In any situation, and that's kind of the basis of what continues to sustain me and also helps me look at any situation like I can overcome it. These life-giving teachings, life-saving teachings. It's discipline is an honor. Oh man, that's one of the big ones.
That's right.
Discipline is an honor. It forces you to take accountability with yourself.
Discipline saves lives.
Man,
that's right.
It forces you to take some accountability of your life. Forces you to, be responsible for everything that going on around you.
That's right.
Take charge of your post all temporal property in view. That runs everything in your life. Man, what? So
yes, sir.
Man.
I got a question for you, man.
Yes, sir.
What's your life like now, man? Like, what are you doing in your life now that's a testament to the things you learned while you were in prison, man?
Yes, sir. One of the main things is do for self or suffer consequences. So right now, I'm a father, I'm a husband. That sets the basis of my life.
Come on.
I'm a business owner. Me and my wife, we own a company called Apex Goes to Freedom, and it is a financial empowerment, financial literacy, business consulting, business empowerment organization tailored to the community in order to give financial literacy and business structure and business funding, but also mentorship. That's where the consulting comes in place, and teach others around us how to also become independent and self-sustaining and reach financial success. Because we believe through that is how you gain and reach real freedom. You got to be able to sustain yourself and not just be subsistent and subservient on, what so-called society gonna divvy out to you.
Indeed.
I'm a student. I attend Wayne State and Mike Ilitch School of Business. Pursuing my bachelor's. I'm co-owner, one of the members of a company called Smack Talk Chess. Shout out. We believe, through that game and, the spirit of competition, that you able to sharpen your tools and also, being a like community. Yeah, man. So, these are the things that kind of, set my foundation. And that's what I directly brung from the joint from prison and wanted to manifest out here.
You know what I see, man? I'm going to tell you what I see. Earlier we talked about you being a nerd. Everything came full circle, bro.
Yep, absolutely.
You kind of like left your natural state to an unnatural state, come to prison, experience some more unnatural stuff, and then right back to your natural state. Because you've really been smart all your life. So now you back to where you actually started at. That is powerful in and of itself, man. I got another question for you. What advice would you give a young person, man, today growing up that may be tinkering on going to the streets and destroying his life or her life? What advice would you have for them?
So that's powerful in and of itself, even having the opportunity to be able to influence somebody else. So the answer is in the question as well. Being a representative and a mentor myself, and consulting, in so many different forms, especially the justice impacted, returning citizens, reentry, however you want to call it, and then ultimately the youth, that everything is cyclical, everything is cycle. You have to, what do you want to be? You got to be able to spark something in them, and you got to be able to reach them in a sense. You got to be able to plant a seed before it really takes root, and then you got to understand their trajectory in life and what they want to do. One of the things I would tell them though is focus on your morals, focus on your character, and everything that you say and you do even now is gonna have an impact and where you end up for life. It ain't gonna be who you are. You got a chance to make mistakes and all that, but you are still accountable for the things you say and you do, and you want to have control over your life going into it. You can't always, you probably won't always have the opportunity, especially if you know, to say, oh well, and blame somebody else. You got to be accountable for your actions. Got to be accountable for your word. You have to take charge and be, have a direction that you want to go. Resources and people out here that want to help you and push you to it, but you don't get to get you. Yeah, you may be young, may be a child, but at a certain place you can't place the blame.
That's heavy. Last question. This dynamic talking points is really geared towards people coming home from prison and really getting the resources and the things they need to actually be successful and thrive in today's society. I see you as a person that has done that. You went to prison, done your time, came home, but now you're not only surviving, but you're also thriving in today's society. So what advice would you give to that man or woman coming home to nothing, but also want to survive and thrive in today's society?
Give yourself time. Going through prison or even all them systems, one thing you figure out is that it has an impact on you and it impacts your natural growth. And so you have to have time to reconcile with yourself and understand whether your mental makeup, the things you've been through, how it affects you. Like right now, sometimes I still suffer from anxiety. I still suffer from PTSD or PTSD. Sometimes I suffer from depression and all these things, but it's also how the world presses down on me and sometimes how I perceive and perceive everything around me and how I perceive those pressures. And one thing I wish I would have did and do and still do is seek counsel, have somebody to reach out to so that you can talk and understand where you at with things, somebody that can relate, who may have directly been through some of the things you done been through. But ultimately, you gotta have patience with yourself. You gotta give yourself that natural room and that natural time to grow, even though you may have been stunted in your experiences, whether it's with prison or any other type of system. Give yourself time while also pursuing a skill. You gotta, the ministry teaches us, if you ever want to take something from somebody, you gotta replace it with something. And so if you've been taken from a certain environment, it gotta be replaced with something that's just as sustainable. So I would say give yourself a skill so you can give yourself an opportunity. You got some resources out here. It ain't as many resources that they would love us to believe that's out here, but they do exist, especially some for free. Some things like Michigan Works, they pay for trades, they pay for skills.
That's right.
I got my CDLAs through there. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
That's commercial. That's CDLs. You'll be driving truck or a barber. Learn how to cut some hair. You gotta be able to sustain yourself and do for self. And that's gonna go a long way to giving you that confidence that you need so you can have time to yourself. You know what I mean? Build yourself up mentally. You gotta be mentally strong for being out here. It's people out here that understand that what you done been through, the setbacks and stuff you done have. But one thing for sure is we all go through it in our own type of ways. It ain't no excuse, but at the same time, you got to be able to support yourself mentally as well. So emotionally, you need emotional stability. You need physical stability. You need intellectual stability. You got to be able to hold your own in a lot of different ways. You got to have the time to build yourself up to that. Read some books, man. Hop into your spirituality. You got to have a spiritual base that's going to push you through a lot of things, because it's going to take patience. It's going to take dedication. It's going to test you. You know? And you got to find like-minded individuals that's going to help sustain you, push you, hold you up when you're weak. You know, I just so happen to have brothers, you know what I'm saying, mentors, father figures around. But one of the biggest, you know, advocates and people that I had that held me down was my wife.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? That's my life partner. That's my business partner, mother of my children. And through it all, she is an independent business owner. She has a business outside of me. You know what I'm saying? A growing, thriving hair business. She's a hairstylist, and especially for the women suffering from alopecia. And I had the opportunity to help, you know, build her up and sustain her. And she feeds me, you know what I'm saying, and helps and push me and you know, have my back. And I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things or, you know, be the person I am if I ain't have the surety.
That's right.
Of that person. You know what I'm saying? Of my wife having my back and stuff like that, and also allowing me to learn and grow and, you know, breathe and, you know, pursue, whether it's education or, you know, whatever it is, man. So you got to find, you know, your person, your partner who gonna push you. You know what I'm saying?
That's powerful. Like, man, I really appreciate you coming here, man. Listen, is there anything you want to say to the people? Any shout outs you want to give? The floor is yours right now to do whatever you gonna do.
Man,
talk to the people.
ApexGoalsToFreedom.com. We putting a real push on to, you know, empower our community in the way of financial literacy, credit restoration, business, you know, structuring and funding. Man, we believe, you know, the dollars in the community, it got to make sense. Therefore, if you want our support, you know what I'm saying, you got to be able to speak to us sustaining ourselves, man. So the brothers coming home, the brothers who here, I'm a big advocate of mentorship, of mental health awareness, and being able to, you know, help your community, man. We done destroyed this community at one particular time, and now it's up to us to help rebuild it, especially because of the impact that we done to it. So that's where I see myself at. You know, I everything I'm doing, I know that I'm not trying to be a role model, but I am a representative of, you know, a model of who I believe in, whether it's, you know, the God on the scene, Minister Louis Farrakhan, or, you know, it's being a husband or a business owner, mentor, father. These are the things that I want for my brothers, you know what I'm saying, and sisters. These are the things I want for my community. And we gotta do for self. We gotta do it for ourselves, because ain't nobody coming to, no matter the political climate, what's going on, they done proved it to us over and over again that we gotta do it for ourselves. Right. You know, so I'm just trying to lead the way, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come up here and talk a little bit about me, a little bit about my past, a lot of things are going on, we got going on, but we need you. we need things like this, especially for the community to see, especially for our people to see, so they know it's somebody out here that's speaking to them and moving for them and, you know, being a resource for them, for us.
You heard it right here, man. The brother Isaiah said, do for self or suffer the consequences.
Sir.
This is Dynamic Talking Points. I am your host, Luke Mon the Wise. Peace.
Peace.